What's up, everybody? Welcome to KCast. This is Kevin, and I want to talk today about the cold civil war going on in America. You may not have noticed it. They definitely tried to keep it quiet, but when you look around the world today, the censorship that's gone on, the bans, the overwhelming media support of things that are bad for you, what I want to talk about is that, like, yeah, you might be seeing it now, but it's been going on for a long time. And so let's kind of do a quick history lesson. I will start with what they like to do is they like to call all conservatives fascists, right? That's their favorite word. All right, so let me show you Google real quick. And I got some feedback that it's often the font is too small for people to read. So let's do this, right? I made me a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, right? So when you go to Google and you type in fascists, fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and the economy, which came to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. All of that is accurate. All of it. Except for this fun little thing that they threw in right there. That's new. All right? That wasn't always part of the definition of fascism because it's outright bullshit. All right? Far right means ultra-conservative. Right? If you were going to say somebody was far right, they were ultra-conservative. They want things to go back the way they were. And then conservative is like, hey, just stop change. Right? They added far right to it. That's the Wikipedia definition of it. Let's see what Britannica has to say. Let's see. Fascism, politics. A political ideology and mass movement that dominated many parts of Central, Southern, and Eastern Europe between 1990 and 1919 and 1945. Although the fascist party movement differed significantly, they had many characteristics in common, including extreme militaristic nationalism, contempt for electoral democracy, political cultural liberalism. Political and cultural liberalism. Contempt, including extreme militaristic nationalism. Okay? So, that's true, because if you think back to 1919 through 1945, we had just come out of the First World War, right? And nobody even imagined a world where somebody could run the whole thing. Somebody could be in charge of the whole world. Planes were relatively new. International travel was rare. The automobile was around, but most people couldn't afford one. The idea of being able to take over the whole planet was absurd. So people became super nationalist in the aftermath of World War I, right? Because they wanted to take care of themselves, right? Contempt for electoral democracy and political cultural, all right? Contempt for electoral democracy and political and cultural liberalism. So it was, these are characteristics they had in common, right? Militaristic nationalism, everybody was a nationalist at the time. Contempt for electoral democracy, true, right? If you look at the world today, who hates electoral democracy? The people who want to get rid of the electoral college, right? That's not the conservatives, is it? No, sir. Can't. Nope. Not. They even stole the election. All right? They rigged the fucking thing. They said when somebody... Forget about rigged the election. Forget about that, right? They said that when somebody's vote is faked, when somebody's vote is stolen, when somebody votes on your behalf, when somebody votes twice, that it doesn't matter unless it would overturn the election. Why not? It's still a crime, right? That's called contempt for electoral democracy. You hate the system so much because it allowed Donald Trump to get elected, because other people thought differently than you. A belief in natural social hierarchy, right? And the rule of elites. You follow? A belief in natural social hierarchy and the rule of elites. those people who live in those flyover states, those rednecks, those uneducated masses that voted for Donald Trump and didn't vote for Obama because it was a white lash against his election in the first place, that is a belief in a natural social hierarchy and the rule of elites. I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. So, it's guys like Zuckerberg and Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and every legislator in the country believes they don't have to listen to you. You're not worth listening to. That has been shown time and time again, whether it was gun control, gay marriage, legalization of drugs, on every subject. The more you thought it was good for you and your community, the less likely it was to get passed through your legislature. Right? It has gotten to the point in states now where you are more likely to see a referendum on your ballot for a law that needs to be passed because your legislators refuse to deal with the backlash of passing that law. So they put it on you. Rather than just making gay marriage legal by law per the legislation you hired them to pass or not pass, right? Instead, they use the judiciary and they use referendums to pass things. Why? Because they can't be trusted to do anything that's in your best interest. That's called the rule of elites. They don't know what's good for them. Let me show them. The same thing with Obamacare. If you wanted health care, you would have went and bought it. You want to know how I know? Because there ain't a damn one of you out there who doesn't have one of these. You got a phone in your pocket, right? You pay a lot of money for that phone, right? You got a car? When you need something, you go buy it. That's the truth. That's the simple truth of it, right? So, if you needed healthcare, you would have bought it, right? That's the way it is. But they know better for you, man. They know better, right? That's the rule of elites, a natural social hierarchy. Let's talk about that. The intersectionalists, the people who believe that if you're white and male and you haven't gone to college, you're the lowest forming human being on the planet. And if you're white and male and you have gone to college, well, then you're a little bit better. But if you're white and male and you're gay, then you're fine by all of us. And you're actually more important than an Asian person who's not gay. They have a whole table in their heads of what makes what you say and do important, whether or not we should value your opinion important. That is called somebody who believes in a natural social hierarchy. Okay? Similarly, when you look at Hitler and he believed in the white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed German, right? Like what the hell do they call him? Anyway, right? He was a socialist. He was a leftist. He believed that was the natural order of the world, is that the German people should rule and everybody else should just have to listen and bend down and take a knee. That's the same thing that the liberals sell in our country today, okay? And they teach to your children in schools. And they pump through your TVs. I was watching the new version of Dumbo. The new version of Dumbo, and they had the Kitchen of Tomorrow exhibit in the circus. And it was robots. And there was a robot. It was a kitchen. And it was a family of robots. And the female was dressed like a man. Literally, you could see her hair, like done like typical female. And then the dad was wearing an apron. And he had like a typical haircut. And she's walking out the door with her suitcase, and he's staying home wearing an apron and a skirt or whatever the fuck. Like, why in Dumbo? Dumbo was already a racist movie. It already had, like, the crows in it being racist as shit, right? But then you remade it in such a fashion where you put these little things in the background to hint at how children should really feel about these things. That this is normal and this is okay. Who cares? But why bother? You didn't need to put a family in the kitchen tomorrow. You could have shown a coffee pot just making your coffee for you, or a fridge that automatically refills itself. But instead, you had to put a message in there. And that's what they do in every movie now, on Netflix, on everything. The war has already begun. It's a cold war on everything that you believe, everything you think is important. They're going to tell you otherwise. They're going to teach your children otherwise, to the point where a kid turned their parents in for going to the Stop the Steal rally in D.C. last week. A teenager did, right? This is a cold civil war in our country, and it has been going on for a while. All right, so let's talk. Right, in the last week, a lot of people woke up, and so I went and got into what the biggest free apps in the country, biggest apps in the country being downloaded right now are. Right, so you have Signal Private Messenger. This is the text messaging form of choice of Edward Snowden. I highly suggest, if you're not using it, to use it. It is end-to-end encrypted. It is completely open source. So if somebody puts a backdoor into it, other coders will catch it. Open source is probably the best way to make sure that the app stays secure. Is that a bunch of different coders from around the planet work on it and can go and look at the code. In any given time, they can go look at the code and see if somebody monkeyed with it to put in a backdoor to allow the government to spy on you, to allow Google to spy on you, and so on and so forth, right? Telegram. I haven't really messed with Telegram much. Right before Parler went down, you saw a lot of people moving over to Telegram, right? Not sure why, because it comes across as a pure instant messaging. Simple, fast, and secure, synced across all your devices. I don't want anything synced across all my devices. I want some of my devices by themselves. I don't suggest you do that. Whether it's your Apple device, your Android device, I don't suggest you do it, right? But apparently you can create pages on there. People can follow you, see what you want to say. Zoom cloud meetings, obviously, that's probably just being driven by schools and businesses and the resurgence of lockdowns in recent weeks. MeWe, this is a Facebook alternative. So what they do is, it's Facebook. It looks like Facebook, it acts like Facebook, except they don't collect your information, they don't sell your information, they don't use your information against you. And what they offer you is the opportunity, if you want to go and do more things with it, right? If you want to have stickers and all these things, they'll allow you to buy different levels and different access to things that allow you to do extra, right? So you can be on that platform, you can talk, you can do things, and then you can pay for the things you want extra for those improvements in the app or specific things that apply to you that would make the app more fun for you. Rather than collecting your data, they make their money off of selling you these things. It's a way healthier alternative than Facebook, whose whole business is your information, right? While I'm on the subject of Facebook, please go into your settings, make sure that Facebook Messenger does not have access to your SMS, right? Almost any of these apps these days, when you install them, they say, hey, I want to, can we look at your SMS? And if you just say yes, or can we be your SMS manager, right? What that's going to do is it's going to give that app and make them your primary text message venue, right? So all of the text message, no matter what app they use to send it to you, will go to Facebook. It'll go into their system. They'll know everybody you talk to. They'll use that against you. And then it'll look to you like they contacted you pretty much on Messenger, right? You're not paying attention, but all it is another way of access into your life. But anyway, give MeWe a shot. I'm on there, Kevin.Nolan9. I'm going to use that as a solely public venue for me to talk and share things. So I think it's Kevin.Nolan9. Check me out. I'll be on there. Anything I post on my personal Facebook is pretty much getting posted there for the time being. I'm looking at January 20th is pulling down my Facebook completely. To be honest, a lot of my friends and family don't even subscribe to my channel, which is fine. They don't have to, but if my friends and family, which are the only people I talk to on Facebook, are not following me on YouTube or Parler or whatever other social apps I'm doing and getting the content and the work that I'm putting in, then I don't really feel the need to be on Facebook. If they want pictures, they can text message me. Let's see. DuckDuckGo is awesome. So as far as I can tell, what DuckDuckGo is, on your phone, it will be its own browser, right? I use it personally. I like it. When you go to search for something, it uses Google, but it doesn't tell Google who you are for them to know that you're searching on their stuff. It also blocks a lot of stuff. So you'll find that sometimes websites don't work as advertised on DuckDuckGo. Sometimes when you're trying to make a purchase or whatever like that from an online store. So what I'll do is, in those times when it's not telling the story of who I am, then I'll go over to Chrome or Bing or whatever, and I'll do the work there. Like, say I'm looking for Texas Roadhouse. I don't care if Google knows that I like Texas Roadhouse. If you don't like Texas Roadhouse, sorry for you, man. It's awesome. But if they need to, if it's something local that's not important to my political stance on things or my work or whatever, and just where Texas Roadhouse is, then I'll use Chrome. But if it's, I'm doing research on something, stuff like that, DuckDuckGo's the go-to. And also, the less Google knows about you, the less they can sell about you. And that's all I really care about. So, but anyway, these are the top apps of the week. What this tells me is that people are learning pretty quickly that it's on, right? That the game's afoot. It's time to start protecting your information, protecting your data, and stop giving them access to it, right? Because every time you give them access to your data, it gives them something to sell, which allows them to become more powerful because they have more money, and so on, right? So even if all you can do is take that away from them, and later on in the podcast, I'll talk to you about some of the different things you can do to get them, remove them as much as possible from your life without it being too much of a pain. All right, so the next thing I told you is that they've been slowly kind of transmogrifying our country to be socialist and communist since 1935. Yesterday, I showed you the chart of how long liberals have been in charge of our country. And today, I figured I'd follow that up with everything that's occurred since, right? So if you look here, public service in the federal government. And all that really matters about this is that 24 million people, a little over 15% of the workforce, work for the government. And you go, well, why does that matter? Well, that matters because the government pay scales are socialist. All right? Doesn't matter how good you are at your job. Doesn't matter how bad you are at your job. It just matters where you rank. Okay? It matters how seniority matters. How much your boss likes you determines whether or not you're getting promoted. Not what you did. Not whether or not you returned value to the company. Because government jobs don't care if they make money. They don't. The government does not make money. It spends money, right? So the government service is socialist, all right? By its very nature. It doesn't matter how lazy you are. If you're this rank, you get paid. As much as the guy who works his butt off, right? Now, granted, the guy who works his butt off will probably get promoted just by the nature of things. But that's definitely not always the case and certainly not a requirement of promotions, okay? So, for example, let me show you the 2021 military pay scales. And I know that this is a bit of an eye chart, right? So, if you look, basically the way it works is like this. You have the person's grade, their rank, where they fit in the company, right? So, this is the lowest, and this is the highest, right? And then you have how long they've been doing the job, no matter how badly, how long they've been doing the job, right? All the way up to 40 years, okay? Now, why does that matter? Well, for example, let's look at it through this lens. This guy is an E7. E7, people probably put that on about 15 years in government service, right? So let's say he's at 15 years. He'd be 14 to 16, right? And he'd be the 1, 2, 3 down, right? Now it's the warrant officers. Sorry. Let me find them. All right. So then it would be here, right? So $47.60 a month. That's his base pay. Now, all of these people down here could work harder than him. Doesn't matter. He's still going to make more, right? All the people the same rank as him could work harder than him. He or she's still going to make more, right? Make the same as them, right? And then when you come up to here, and you have your officers. So these are enlisted, E. Up here you have your officers, right? O1, O2. So you say you come in as an O1, right? You're a second lieutenant, whatever, right? Because you have a college diploma, you're worth $4,200.60 a month. And because you don't, and even though you've put it, oh wait, sorry, I did that wrong. So you just came in, you just joined the military, you're worth $33.85. Nobody gets paid that pretty much. But in no time, you're making $42.60, right? So in under 3 years, you're going to get this, which is more than 15 years, right? Just because you have a college diploma doesn't mean you're a better person, doesn't mean you work harder. You certainly don't. You probably don't, right? It doesn't even mean you have a brain on your head at all, right? That's socialism. Everybody in federal service or government service is very, very accustomed to getting paid the same as or worse than somebody who's lazy, who's useless, who provides nothing to the organization. Everybody, right? And if you don't believe me, I just did a quick Google search of teacher pay scales. And this is Newport News Public Schools. That's in Virginia. I just hit Google pay scales, and I think it was like, hey, you kind of live in Hampton Roads, Virginia, so here, let's give you this. And this is the first thing to come out. Now, you'll look. You got steps, right? Steps go all the way up to 31, and they determine how much you're going to get paid, right? Based on the number of days, blah, 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 right? Similarly, here you have bachelor's degree, right? And here you have a master's degree. And here you have a master's plus degree, advanced studies, something. And then over here you have a doctorate. Now, I don't know any elementary schools where having a doctorate is going to make you a better elementary school teacher, but apparently in the socialist school district system, they've designed it so that it makes you a more valuable person, right? Because all you have to do is look at the last number, and that tells you, okay, at step 31, you're worth 78 here, you're worth 80 here, you're worth 83 here, right? So they have been slowly programming more and more American citizens to be accustomed to the socialist ideal, which is everybody gets paid the same, right? You save a lot of money on accountants that way, I swear. That's, so like I said, 15%, right? In some states, like Alaska, it's as high as like 25% of the population works in government service, is accustomed to getting paid based on how long they've been doing the job, not how good they are at the job, right? So, that's one of the ways that they've slowly infiltrated our world, right? The other way is through our children, right? They like I said, with Dumbo and things like that, where they're teaching them to view everybody based on their demographic data rather than their actual personal qualities, right? They're teaching them that the value of what you say is based on the color of your skin, based on who you have sex with. So you better choose the right thing, right? If you get better grades simply because you're gay, right? Because the teacher doesn't want to be seen as discriminating, right? Even if your writing is worse or whatever the work you're doing is actually objectively worse, subjectively that kid will land up with a better grade, and therefore their value is higher just based on who they have sex with. Which, by the way, our schools shouldn't be deciding or have any care about who our children have sex with, because they shouldn't be thinking about sex. Not that they aren't. That's how puberty works. But you got me? Once you included sex into what the value of a person is in the education system, you opened a door. And you opened a door towards having other adults outside of your house decide that matters. Okay? So, everybody's looking for government jobs. Similarly, unions did the same thing. Unions pay on scale, right? It's, okay, I'm a union member and I've got this many years of experience. And when COVID hit, the people with the most experience got the most hours. And then the people with the least number of years working for the union got the least hours, were first to let go, right? All that's socialism. All of it, right? But the other thing you have to remember is, by definition of what fascism is it's extreme militaristic nationalism, insofar as eventually everybody, economic fascism, I should look up. Economic fascism. An important aspect of fascist economies was economic dirigism, meaning an economy where the government often subsidizes favorable companies and exerts strong direct influence over investment, as opposed to having a merely regulatory role, right? So, about a month ago or so ago, the House got really big media because they were the first House of Representatives to pass legalization of marijuana. And I went and read the law, and inside the law that they passed, it required 5% tax right out the gate, without knowing the impact it would have on the economy, without knowing how many people smoke weed, because it's obviously illegal federally. They shouldn't know, have a real number anyway. They decided it was going to be an automatic 5%. in perpetuity, forever, 5% on every sale of marijuana in the country. Right? That means from the farmer to the distributor, from the distributor to the seller, from the seller to the person, 5% tax. Right? And then they said that 5% is going to become the most important money in our country. Why? Because they said forever, that 5% will go to those communities most negatively impacted by the war on drugs. So forever, 5% of every pot sale in the country would go to liberal cities, right? That is called subsidizing favorable companies and exerts strong directive influence over investment. You're only going to invest in the places that sucked worse at dealing with drugs. Does that sound right? In a capitalist economy, do you reward the people who did the worst job? The police officers, the mayors, the city councils that did the worst job? No, absolutely not. That's fascism. That's what the left in America is, okay? Yes, they say they're socialist. They're economically socialist. Well, economically socialist is fascist, okay? They keep trying to redefine words, but you can't be... you can't just decide that this is what socialism means. Democratic socialism. That's fascist. You've shown us that who we actually voted for doesn't matter. You're going to install whoever you want, right? 2016, they chose Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee. That happened in Las Vegas. Go look at it. In Clark County, there was nearly a riot because Bernie Sanders essentially won the vote, and then the local director of the DNC decided, no, Hillary gets these votes, gets these delegates. That's how it went down, right? They decided Hillary was the candidate, regardless of how you voted. So please do not pretend to me that it's democratic, okay? Just because they have the word in the name, just like the HEROES Act wasn't about heroes and the CARES Act wasn't about caring about you. Same thing. Democratic National Committee has nothing to do with democracy and everything to do with fascism. All right? And this has been a long, ongoing war. Slowly and steadily, they've said, well, we just want to help people. We just want to help people. We just want to help this person. We want to help that person. And we're going to do things for these people over here. We're going to do things over there. And as long as they keep voting for us, we'll continue to do things for them. Right? You're exerting control over the economy of not just money, but of votes. You're exerting control over it, saying, well, if you stop voting for me, I'm not going to take care of you anymore, right? And by the way, they've seen the movement in the black community. You can tell. In the last 20 years, they can see how the black communities woke up in America and been like, if they're so good for us, why is everything going so bad for us? They can see that. And you can see it because of their attitude towards the border, right? Their attitude towards drugs, towards a lot of things, towards criminal activity, right? Is we're going to decriminalize this, we're going to decriminalize that, we're not going to jail people for misdemeanors, we're not going to do... They're going to let people come in the border, we believe in open borders, we believe in open, and sanctuary cities and all that stuff. All of that is them saying, I think we can replace the hardworking black community with lazy-ass white people and Hispanic people coming across the border. And Latin people coming across the border, right? That's them going, we have to really work on this black demographic. They're going to go away. They're going to get affluent enough that they won't need us anymore. We need to create a new community of people that need us. That's why LA has over 100,000 homeless people. That's why they have over 1 million immigrants that are not documented in LA, right? They're trying to replace the community that's grown strong enough to not need them anymore with these pieces of shit people, right? Like, if you came across the border illegally, sorry, you're a fucking lawbreaker. I think you're a piece of shit. I get why you might do it. I get it. But their assumption is that you came across the border illegally and we're going to protect you, so you're going to vote for us. And if they stop protecting you, if you stop voting for them, they're going to stop protecting you. That's fascist control of the vote. All right? That's it. That's the way it goes, right? All right, let me see. Is anybody in chat? Got something to say? No? All right. So, They're the fascists. That's why they point at Trump and say he's a fascist. That's why they called every Republican candidate in the last 30 years, said they're fascists. They changed the definition of what a fascist is, but the truth of the matter is they're the fascists. And they love to talk to you about FDR. FDR was this and FDR was that, but the truth of the matter is that FDR was a good friend of Mussolini before the war started. Before the war started, he was best friends with Mussolini. Sorry, chat, right? No. Playbacks? None. Nobody's turned it on. Okay, I guess I should have advertised or something, but they took down Parler. They took down... Facebook doesn't advertise me anymore. Not advertise. They don't even let my family see what I say anymore, which I'm fine with, right? It's infuriating. Now, please like, share, subscribe. The only way I'll ever be heard is if you guys do that, right? It kind of overcomes. And if you have comments, put comments in the comment block. So, in the last week, we saw the destruction of Parler, right? Now, Parler will be back. I'm sure of it. There's enough investment. There's enough money. There's enough people who want it, right? We've gone through these. Went through the pay scales. So, the next thing I want to talk to you about is Amazon. So, Facebook and Google banned Parler from their app stores, which essentially, if people don't have an app on their phone, they generally don't do something, right? Like, yes, people probably go on their computers and use Parler and use Facebook and things like that. I certainly don't. Why open my laptop when I could just open my phone? And by banning them from the app store, they haven't banned them from your phone. You just have to go to the website and log in. That said, after they did that, people were still on Parler, having a good time, talking about what was going on in the world, sharing actual news, sharing the truth about Hunter Biden, sharing a lot. And they were like, no, we got to shut them down. So Amazon cut off Parler. They said Parler apparently was using Amazon Web Services to host their platform, right? They had over, I think, 11 million subscribers or something like that. And Amazon was like, bye, we're not going to do this anymore. In their haste to shut them down, hackers got in to all the personally identifiable information of Parler. Every single person who used it. Because Amazon fucked up. Because Amazon did what they did. They left them unsecure and then shut them down. And so people on the internet, if you go Google about it, are actually actively, and go look around in the web about it, but people are actually talking about using that information to stop from employing people, to harass people, to attack their children, attack their families. This is a cold civil war. Amazon was more than capable of taking it down and not leaving them unsecure. If they didn't do it, right, on purpose, it was gross negligence. That said, here's Amazon. So I decided to do some work for you. Now, how do we strike back? I need Amazon because the whole country's locked down, because they've paid off our local election officials all the way up to the top of the government now to keep our economy closed. So you've got Amazon, Walmart, Target, and that's it. Now, Target gave millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter after Black Lives Matter became famous for breaking into a Target. Walmart, similarly, people are getting home deliveries and stuff like that. But the target for today is Amazon. How do you take down an Amazon? Well, it's not easy. People rely on it for purchases. But there are things you're allowed to do. For example, you're allowed to say, on your storefront, you're going to say, Amazon employees not welcome here. You're allowed to do that. So that would include Jeffrey Bezos, who is the famous Amazon guy. But then Brian T. Olofsky also is a major shareholder in Amazon. David H. Clark. Can you guys see this all right? Let me make sure. Let's do this. Okay. David H. Clark, right? Now, most of these people are going to be living out in Seattle, Washington. So, if you love our country and you're tired of people trying to manipulate your First Amendment rights, they might come try to shop at your store. I would not authorize entry. Andrew Jassy, he's also He's CEO of Amazon Web Services. So this is the guy that would have been in charge of shutting down Parler. Not Jeffrey Bezos. Like, Jeffrey Bezos would have known. But this is the guy who would have been in charge of it. Okay? So watch out for Andrew Jassy. He's a problem. Vice President, joined Amazon in 2006. Vice President of Finance and Controller. Pay attention. Look around. So these are the people who are basically in charge of it. Same thing. Jeffrey Wilkie. David A. Zapolsky. Now, you might think, I can't do anything with these people. I don't want you to attack these people in the street. You shouldn't. It's a bad idea. Violence is not the answer. Okay? Definitely not the answer right now. But these are the people who have been winning off of your losses during the lockdowns. These are the people who funded the campaigns of the people who won and shut down the economy. Over a virus they knew nothing about, they shut down an economy, right? And then they said, here are the chosen stores that are allowed to stay open. Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, Microsoft, Amazon. You see who won? Okay. So, now you've got the directors. This is the board. Again, Jeffrey Bezos, Keith B. Alexander, Rosalind Brewer, Jamie Gorelick. Now, I can post this down in the thing. If you hit me in chat, I will. Actually, I'll just put the link in chat if I can chat in chat. I'm not sure if I can. Copy. Let's see. Here's the link. So everybody has it. That is where you can get the list of people who have been working towards the destruction of free speech in America. Now, Daniel P. Hutmeyer went to the MIT Schwarzman College of Computing. Judith A. McGrath, former chair and CEO of MTV Networks. These people look really hip. Indra Nooyi, I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to pretend to, right? So these are people I would not allow to do business at my business, right? Now, here are the top Amazon shareholders. You're going to have fun with this because it goes back to what I was discussing the other day about how BlackRock and Vanguard own everything. Top three individual shareholders, you're going to see the familiar names from this page, right? Jeffrey Bezos, Andrew Jassy, and Jeffrey Blackburn, right? So, forget about them. We already talked about how to deal with them. Don't let them do business. Just don't. Don't let them shop at your supermarket. You know, top three institutional shareholders. Advisor Group, Inc. Now, this is an institutional broker company, but they're small. It has $296.7 billion in assets under management. That probably doesn't sound small to you, but when you look at who comes up next, you've got the Vanguard Group. $6.2 trillion in global assets. Now, Vanguard and BlackRock, both, they own each other, and they buy each other's shares, and then they share back and forth. So how do you get back at them? Because they're the largest, they're the largest shareholders in Amazon, right? Also Google, also Facebook. How do you get back at them? Well, Vanguard actually happens to run a ton of IRAs, 401ks, things like that. So, look at your IRAs from your company, right, and say, listen, if you're invested in Amazon, you know, if they own Vanguard funds, say, okay, well, listen, I'm going to pull all my money out and I'm going to send it over to a company that doesn't invest in Amazon. Now, you will not incur a tax penalty as long as you redistribute it into another 401k within, I think it's 30 days or 60 days or the same year. I can't remember, right? But you're a money guy or Google about it, you'll know. But just call up and say, listen, talk to your company and say, listen, you need to find a different fund manager. I don't want to be involved with Vanguard at all. They're one of the biggest fund holders in the world, but they're also largely invested in by China. And BlackRock, which is largely invested in by China. So you didn't, yes, if China does well, you do well. But if you do well, China does better. Okay? If you do well, Vanguard does better. There's other people, other companies that you can have your money invested in, your retirement accounts invested in, that will take just as good care of you. They all have what's called fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. So they're not allowed to intentionally lose money. All right? You can find other funds that will manage it just as well and not have those ties to China, not have those ties to Amazon, not have those ties to Google. And you can say, listen, I just want to be invested in healthcare, or I just want to be invested in this. And you can actually be very specific about where your money goes. So think about it. That's another way to get them back. Call your company and say, listen, you got to get us out of Vanguard funds. You got to get us out of any BlackRock funds. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want my money tied to these criminals, these America-hating fucking fools, right? You can do that. You can contact the company and say, divest from Amazon now, or I'll move my shares elsewhere. You can call your Vanguard fund and say, divest, sell off. I don't want anything to do with Amazon. I don't want anything to do with Google. I don't want anything to do with Facebook. Or I'm leaving. And yeah, my account's small, but there's at least 75 million of us. Because this is the thing, guys. How did they get in bed with China? They got in bed with China because money was more important to them than their own country. And guess what? They'll get out of bed with China because money isn't more important to them than their own country. They don't have any allegiance but to their own wallets. Take their wallets from them. Make them hurt. Right? Make their lives difficult to live, these people, and then also make them hurt by making sure you're not invested with these guys. Odds are your company does not invest directly into BlackRock, but BlackRock invests into Vanguard, and there's a good chance that you have a Vanguard 401k. If not, call them up anyway and find out if they're invested in Vanguard. You can also Google what their biggest shareholdings are, and you can find out and tell them to get the hell out of it, right? So, the other thing you could do in dealing with Google and Facebook and all of them, and it's harder, is you can go to a shitty phone. Right? So, yes, it's going to be shittier, but they won't be able to get into your shit. They won't have an Android OS, and it won't have an Apple OS, right? What I suggest is, and I'm planning on doing it, I'm going to use the stimulus that Joe Biden promised yesterday. I'm going to use it to pay off all the cell phones on my plan, and then I'm going to buy a garbage phone that's just for phone, and then I'll buy everybody on my plan a tablet that they can use on Wi-Fi. Right, that uses either Microsoft or something like that. Not as much. I'm not as negative on Microsoft because they don't sell my data the way Google does. They use it for their own purposes, but they don't sell it as much. And they also haven't banned Parler from their app store because they don't have one anymore. But it's way safer. And then if Microsoft starts fucking around, I'll move over to Linux. I'll figure it the hell out. Right, but you can go Google around. This one's from The Guardian, and it said, can I buy a phone that doesn't use anything from Google or Apple? You'll notice that your Android phone came with Amazon Shopping pre-installed in it, too. So it's another way of getting back at them. Stop using Android devices. Your Amazon Fire, your Kindle, anything that's got Android on it. Same thing, your smart TV likely has Android on it, right? So here's my suggestion to that. This is called the Intel Compute Stick, all right? Fairly cheap. It's literally the size of a pack of gum. Now over here, you've got an HDMI port. Whatever TV you bought for Christmas, instead of having a logon on it and letting Google track what you're watching and what you're doing all the damn time, or Google or Amazon or whatever, plug this dude in the side of your TV, get a wireless keyboard and mouse, and now your TV is a computer. It'll run. It comes with Windows 10 preloaded on it, and it's literally the size of a bubblegum wrapper. You plug it in the size of your TV, you use a mouse, you can do everything you can do on a smart TV right through this little dude. Okay? And if you look at how much an Intel Compute Stick goes for, Compute Stick, boom. 159, 213, 149, 169. It's literally the price of a tablet. You can turn your TV into whatever you need it to turn it into. And you can work on Excel spreadsheets. And you can keep all your pictures. And you can add memory to it. See, if you look here, they got like little ports on the side where you can add extra stuff to it. Like, you're not stuck with letting Android into your house. You're certainly not stuck with having, Alexa in your house. You can just play music through your fucking stereo system like a grown-up. Right? You don't need to be able to go, Alexa, play some dance music. You don't have to do that. You can just go and play some dance music, right? Just a couple of words. You can voice activate. Windows 10 comes with Cortana in it. You can do the same thing and not let them in your house. Same thing as you think they want to control your lights? If you think they want to control the music you can hear or make your life easier, and that's the reason why they invented Alexa and Siri and all that, you're outside of your fucking mind. It gave them an excuse to give them permanent access to your microphone. Permanent access. You can't take it away and still have it function. And so they can hear every conversation that occurs in your house. Right? Why? And if you think it can't hear because I'm in the other room, you're crazy too. You're wrong. Okay? Like, the microphone might act like an idiot when it comes to dealing with you, but it's not an idiot when it comes to just taking in data. Okay? Get Alexa out of your life. Get your Google Assistant. Turn it the hell off. I even suggest turning off Cortana. But if it's really important to you to be able to talk to your fucking TV or your music system, like, go for it, I guess. Get them out of your life. All right? And it's not that hard. If only getting them out of your house, getting them out of your life helps to cost them their bottom dollar. Every bit of data that they get on you makes their data on you more valuable. Think of your personally identifiable information as a stock, and it's got a share price. And the more information they have on you, the higher that price goes up, right? And by the way, the better your credit score and the better you manage your finances, the more likely that data is worth more. And you're not getting paid for it. They are, right? So by all means, I'm not saying the Intel Compute Stick is the only answer. I'm seeing a lot of different options here, but literally it plugs into the side of your TV, skip right around that smart TV function and use that. And you'll actually be happier with what you can do because it's like using a computer on your TV. Like, it does only what you want it to do and not what you don't want to do. Okay? So that's another way you can get these people out of your life. All right, so what did we cover so far? We covered how basically every government job is essentially training the United States populace to be communist, right? To be socialist, right? Everybody gets paid the same no matter how much they work. So you got your military pay scales, you got number of years in service, you got the ranks. Over here, you've got your steps, and you got how many days a year you work, and that determines. And then the most important aspect of this that people probably miss is the classes of citizen, right? We talked about how the true definition of fascism, let me find it. True definition of fascism includes a belief in rule by the elite. All right, let's go back to Britannica, right? Control F, elite, right? So fascism is a liberal ideology, right? We talked about it, but I'm going to just say it one more time. Contempt for electoral democracy, such as not valuing every vote equally, as happened in this previous election, or what happened in 2016, where they stole the election from Bernie Sanders for Hillary Clinton, right? And a political cultural liberalism. Fascism is a left-wing ideology, a belief in natural social hierarchy and the rule of elites, okay? So, when you get a job in the military, these are your officers. What's the difference between an officer and an enlisted person? When they say general, captain, lieutenant, major, right? And they make them sound important. Well, those are the people who got college diplomas. That's it. The only difference between a 4-star general and an E9, right, a chief master sergeant, or a command sergeant major, right, or whatever it is in that force, is this guy has a degree. This guy didn't have one when he joined. Now, over something like 50% of the force that's enlisted has a degree by the time that they get to this point. And in the Air Force, it's 100% by the time they make Master Sergeant. But it still doesn't matter. They're going to get paid less than this person who just showed up yesterday because his mom could afford a degree. All right? This is what we call creating classes of citizens. Getting people adjusted to the idea that there are better people and there are worse people. Right? If you remember in 2016 when Trump won, they went on and on about how, well, it was mostly uneducated white men who voted for Donald Trump. Right? Did you hear anything about demographic data this year? Any at all? That's how you know the election was bullshit. All right? They will always tell you when, Barack Obama got 91% of the black vote in 2012, and that was a real game changer. They couldn't tell you what the game changer is. They didn't even bother to tell you what made Joe Biden do so well this year, did they? They always tell you what made them do so well. This year they didn't. All right? But it's this belief in classes of citizens, right, that is so integral to liberalism. If you're Native American and black plus gay, then you're more important. But if you're just Native American and black, but not gay, you're less important. But if you have a degree, then your opinion matters more. But if you don't have a degree, you're a piece of shit. Unless you're an immigrant. If you're an immigrant, it's not your fault you don't have a degree. The whole system was designed against you. Of course it was. Of course the system was designed for Americans. Why wouldn't it be? Only an idiot thinks like that, right? But that's the game they play. Is they're trying to get it built into your life that your military, in the military life, right? There was a sense to having officers back in the day. Because officers actually were educated, and they were trained in the art of war. And then it was unlikely that your average enlisted person 200 years ago even finished high school. There wasn't high school. There was just a local schoolhouse, right? But today it doesn't make sense. We all go to the same high school, right? And 4 years of college has shown over the last 20 years to be absolutely useless in determining the intellect of a human being, or their capabilities, or their qualities, right? So this class system doesn't make sense unless you're trying to adjust the population to a belief that elites exist, and not just that they matter, right? The Democratic Party used to talk about occupying Wall Street and taking down, these billionaires and millionaires. They don't talk about that anymore. That's why they didn't want Bernie Sanders in charge of their party, right? They don't want to take down the millionaires and billionaires. They want to be the millionaires and billionaires. That's their sole goal, right? That way they can be elite. They can matter, just like a fascist would love it, right? And the desire to create a Volksgemeinschaft, German, people's community, in which individuals' interests would be subordinated to the good of the nation. It doesn't matter that you believe in individual liberty. It doesn't matter that you like Donald Trump. Stop it. That's not what's good for the nation, because I said so. Can you think of a more fascist ideology than what is being perpetrated in our country today? All right, let's go to socialism. Let's cover that real quick. Oh, let me finish our quick review of what we've gone over. I showed you the teachers' pay scales. I also showed you who's in charge of Amazon. All these people. I put the link in the chat box. You can open it up and look for yourself. My advice is don't let them participate. Just don't. They don't get to use your supermarket. They don't get to use your corner store, your gas station, whatever. Don't let them participate. If they show up at your movie theater, walk out and demand your money back. Whatever you're doing, keep these people away from you. Don't let them participate in society. Make them hang out with their elite friends. And their kids too. Fuck them. Because guess what? People are more sensitive about their kids. I'm definitely more sensitive when I see that in Michigan, when the lady who didn't want to sign off the terrible vote there, the precincts didn't add up. She said, I don't want to sign it. They attacked her children in school. Threatened their lives online, right? So I went off, deal with Amazon. Here's another way to deal with Google and Amazon and Apple, is just go get a cheap phone that just does phone shit. I forever have wanted it to be separate. I want to be able to play a game on my phone or whatever the hell I'm doing, and also not have my boss call me while I'm doing it. So I'm going to get, as soon as I get my stimulus check, I'm going to spend every dollar I get of it getting the fuck out from under Google. Even though I think it's better than Apple, still going to do it. If you have a smart TV, fuck it. Go get an Intel compute stick. I showed you, it's less than $200 mostly. Plugs into your HDMI port. Hook up a mouse, keyboard, whatever you want to it. Microphone, whatever. Right? If your TV has a camera on it, typically it'll be attached by a USB port. Unplug that fucking thing. And cover it with tape, and then look for the microphone. There's no way they included a camera on your TV without a microphone port. Right? And get that thing disabled. right? But they're not giving these things away for free, folks. They're doing it to get your data, to get your information. How many people live with you? What are their ages? What are their interests? What are their likes? So they can know your children before you've let them have social media accounts. They'll know your kid and know how to advertise to them, okay? Get them the hell out of your life and stop letting them make money off of your kids. All right, so let's talk about what socialism really is. Let's see what Google says. Socialism. It's going to make it sound really good. Socialism, noun. A political economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Sounds good, right? In Marxist theory, when you go back to the Communist Manifesto, a transitional social state between the overthrow of capitalism and the realization of communism. There is not a socialist in the world today who believes that socialism's purpose is this. Is that everybody gets a say in how things are ran. There's not one. It doesn't exist. It's false. It's a lie. Okay? And if they believe it, it's because they've bought into the hype that they're selling. But the truth of the matter is, anybody who really understands what socialism is knows what the purpose of it is. The purpose of socialism is that it's to transition our social state between capitalism and communism. There's no other purpose. In fact, socialism as an idea did not exist before communism existed. Marx made it up, and he said this is the natural state of things. People would have to move to socialism and choose to move to that, and then communism would naturally occur. That is the true belief of all these socialists out there. Don't, for a second, believe that they just want to help people. I showed you yesterday, right? But I'm going to open it up again. Control of Congress. Party divisions of the United States. Let me see if I can get it full. All right. Can you guys see that okay? Yes. All right. Look here. Down in this corner. Oh, shit. I screwed up. Sorry. Wish I could fucking scroll. Okay. So this is who has had control over our Congress. If you look, between 1931, 33, and 35, it switched over to blue. Pretty much permanently. If you go back to 1857, it was blue, and then it became red during the Civil War, right? It became a red nation during the Civil War and after, for years after. And then, after the market crash in 1929, and Hoover's failure to turn it around immediately, which it's very debatable whether or not that was actually possible, okay? After they couldn't turn around a worldwide economic collapse in 1934 and 1933, FDR takes over. The nation goes blue, not just while FDR was in charge, pretty much our entire history since. You had 12 years of House control and 6 and 4 where they had control over the Congress. But if you look, this chart, this little bar graph here, this line graph, shows you how much control they had. Now, if you know much about Congress, you know that in the Senate you have to have more than 60 votes to make change, to guarantee that you're going to be able to affect change. And if you look, when it goes red, it only goes red so much, by 2, 3, 5 seats. Okay? So they're 55 max, right? Red. But if you want to look for why all the problems still exist in America, why our education system is so broken, why everybody's in debt, why wages didn't go up, look at the people who controlled the generation of law. Since 1933, they have controlled the ability to manufacture law. Anybody above this blue line here has what I think they call it a supermajority, which means they can pass anything they want. No party outside of the Democratic Party has had the ability to do that since 1933. Okay? So when the country does bad under a Republican Senate, don't believe them. When it does good under a Republican Senate, don't believe the Republicans for taking credit for it. Right? That's literally just the economy doing its job. And this is the best possible place we can be as a country, is where Republicans don't have control over Congress and Democrats don't have control over Congress, because they're both not on your side. They're both not on your side. They're both on the side of their donors. And by the way, their donors are the same people. Look up any donor in our country, any of them, and you'll find that they donated to both parties, whether it's this industry or that industry. AT&T donated more to Republicans than it did to Democrats, right? We broke up AT&T in 1982. Now they're the biggest telecommunication company in the world. And if you look, you got red and blue through that whole period. So they donated to both parties hugely. And now they're the biggest telecommunications company in the world, largely owned by China, who also owns Warner Media, which owns CNN. Nobody on your television is telling you what's really happening because they all work for fucking China, including your politicians, right? That is why they hated Trump so bad. If you think about why it was all like, oh, Bush was Hitler. You remember when Bush was Hitler? And I remember when Romney was a sexist. And I remember when John McCain was too old to be the president, right? But they weren't so hard on them, were they? Right? Because it didn't really matter which one you got. They were all playing ball with China. They were all taking donations from the same people, right? But when you look at Trump and his donations and who he got in bed with and who he hurt with his policies and his executive orders, it all hurt China, which means it hurt all these other companies. They want somebody in the White House who will play ball with CNN, play ball with Fox News, play ball with AT&T and Amazon. I mean, he talked about banning Section 230, putting price controls on medication, and I mean, like literally every major donor to anything in our country, he was going to stomp. And and of course the media hated him. Not because he did anything, because he talked about fixing it. So, this is who's in charge of our country since 1933. Now, FDR was a socialist. He was a huge... Mussolini loved him, who was a fascist, right? Hitler loved him too. And then Hitler grew more and more bold, and America had to make a decision, and FDR made the right one and didn't go with the socialists and the communists. We spent the better part of the last 100 years fighting the socialists and communists on the battlefield. And they've been fighting the capitalists in our colleges. They've been fighting the people who believe in democracy and individual liberty in our colleges, in our universities, in our schoolhouses, nationwide, worldwide. And they've been winning because we as conservatives tend to take money. We want to make sure we earn a living, right? Sorry, I'm just doing something here. We want to make sure we earn a living, so we don't take jobs that don't pay. If we go to school, if we go to college, then we go get a job that pays money because we want to be able to take care of our families, because that's what you do in a capitalist economy. The idiots go work in the university, right? They work as school teachers and stuff like that, right? Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of decent school teachers. I wouldn't be who I am today without awesome school teachers, but I had a lot of bad ones, okay? And what I've seen as the population's grown, the quality of school teachers has diminished, and a lot of them are coming out of their universities with their heads filled with this socialist, communist, intersectional ideology, and then they go into the classrooms and they teach your kids this shit, right? That you matter more if you're the right skin color, or you fuck the right people, right? So all I'm saying is just watch out, right? The Civil War already started. It's a Cold War, guys. And I want to figure out ways to win it. So what I did, and if you guys follow me for a while, you can look back. I did a video about share this to change the world, right? I took all my money out of 401ks. I took every dollar I had out of my 401k. Not that I don't believe in saving retirement. I believe it's tremendously important. But I didn't know where my money was or who I was helping. And everywhere I looked, I found people who were using their investment capital to hurt me, to hurt my nation. And so I could no longer in good conscience invest in it. All right? So I took all my money out of my 401ks and I paid off debt. Any debt I had, I paid off, which meant now banks don't get interest. Because what are banks? Well, banks are investment securities firms, right? Who are the number one donors to Joe Biden. You punish them. Don't use their resources anymore, right? Don't use their banks. Don't use shit, right? How many employers require you to have a direct deposit so it goes to some fucking bank who gets between you and your money? They've infiltrated every aspect of your life, and now they're trying to tell you how to live. Otherwise, you can't use their services. You can't say this, otherwise you can't use their services. You can't do that. you got to wear a mask or we're going to shut down your bank account, which is happening. It's happening, right? Now, I'm not against mask wearing. I don't really care. But you're going to shut off my account? This is the world we live in, guys. The Civil War has already started. I do not support violence. Don't. You don't have to. Just don't let them play with your money. Don't let them play with your data. Don't let them play with your information. And don't let them play with your kids. That's it. Take them out of the schools. Homeschool them. Pay somebody to teach them. Somebody smart. Somebody with a brain and without an agenda being forced on them by government service. By a curriculum that doesn't believe what you believe. Right? Now, the word indoctrination, they when they talk about religion to your kids, they say your kids were indoctrinated. They were indoctrinated. Children are indoctrinated. Nobody's born Christian. They're just indoctrinated to. Yeah, that's called evolution. How many wildlife shows have you seen where they say, if we don't get this baby to its mother, it won't learn the skills it needs to survive in the wilderness? That's indoctrination, guys. Right? You teach your kids what you believe. Right? But then they turn 4 years old. The moment they have a memory, we are all expected to ship them off to the government for indoctrination. They go hang out with them for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and then they come home to you, and you got 2 hours to erase all the BS that they got filled with, if they tell you about it, and input good shit. And then they go to bed, right? And then they come back to school again. And it happens all over again. And these days, what do? They send your kid home with more schoolwork to do at home than they do at school, so they can spend all day indoctrinating them, and then you can spend all night grading helping them with their papers, and never get that shit out of their heads. It's all mental fucking training to teach your kid to be a socialist, communist, hipster douchebag who likes soy frappuccinos. How many times have you seen somebody, I hate capitalism. Capitalism's bad for the world, and they're in their fucking iPhone. Like, the children that the education system today are creating are so fucking oblivious to their stature in the world that they don't even recognize their hypocrisy. If you're the poorest person in America, you probably live off of, I would say, $10 a day. Over a third of the planet lives on less than $1 a day. When they talk about the 1%, it's awfully convenient, isn't it? They only talk about the 1% in America. Your kids are the most spoiled brats in the history of the world. They are among the wealthiest people on the planet. They should be happy, and instead they're committing suicide at rates unfucking heard of. Because your schools are teaching them that their feelings matter. That feelings are more important than reality. And they have no fortitude, no strength to survive in the real world. I've literally had kids' parents call me. Like, I spent 20 years in the military. I had their parents call me. Why are you being so mean to my son? Are you kidding me right now? He joined the military. The military. He could die, lady. Of course I'm mean to him. I gotta make him strong. That's the children these school districts are creating. Because I know it's not your fault. You can't be there. For the last, I'll show you again, the last 100 years almost, 90 years, Democrats have been in charge of the lawmaking in our country. And they've made sure, absolutely sure, that wages never increased. They haven't increased in over 40 years before Trump became president for the average middle-class family. 40 years. They made sure that you had to work 2 and 3 jobs while telling you working 2 and 3 jobs was evil. We should raise the minimum wage, right? While by the way, when you look at the numbers, they were the only party that they had the authority to do it. They don't want the shit that they're telling you they want for you. They could have passed a higher minimum wage. They could have made it $15 an hour. Not that I think that's right, but they could have. They just fucking talk about it. And they don't do it because they want you to be helpless. They want you to have to work 2 and 3 jobs. So then you have to dump your kid off at a pre-K. That's what they tell you is necessary. If your kid doesn't go to pre-K, they're going to be an idiot. They'll be behind everybody, right? So they can start indoctrinating your kids sooner. And getting into their head and telling them all these ideas that aren't helpful to them, won't help them survive. Because that's your job as a parent, is to teach them the things they need to know to survive. Right? So they want to take them away from you as early as possible. They want to make sure you're too busy to find out what the fuck they're teaching them. They're blocking parents from watching Zoom classes at every step and turn of the way they're trying to take your children from them and mold them into something that hates you and hates everything that your family has learned through generations and generations of survival, through world wars, epidemics, starvation, voyages across the Atlantic. Everything you know, everything that has allowed your gene pool to survive, they're trying to erase from your children by taking them out of your hands, putting you in a job, working for the government or similar, and you're just strapped to that job for the rest of your fucking life. And then they're going to make sure your kids know what they need to know. And you don't get a fucking say. That's the fucking war we're in, guys. It's not a violent war. It's not a physical confrontation. You can go protest all you want. Go for it. That's not going to solve anything. It doesn't matter. You saw over 1 million people showed up to the Capitol. Some 100 or 200 douchebags got out of control and went into the Capitol building. They knew they didn't belong in there. And I'm sorry for anybody who got hurt in the process, on either side. They knew they didn't belong in there. Over 1 million people went to the Capitol, though. And 100 people stormed in. Whatever word you want to use for what they did. Don't care. The point is, all those other people are now considered enemies of the state by our media. And all they wanted to do was make sure that their voices were heard. But they don't matter now, do they? At all. I don't matter, and you don't matter. Because it's all a fucking game to them anyway. They just wanted an excuse to be able to do whatever they wanted to do. Which they got in spades. Protests don't matter and they don't help because they will always spin it to make you look like you're a bad person. Nonviolent protest in the modern era is digital protest. Take your money back. Don't invest. Buy into something else. Only buy toys that don't include their fucking name, right? Use search engines that don't allow Google ads, right? Do a quick Google search of who's investing in the companies who are your enemy, right? That's how we win, is take the money back. Take the territory back. The internet is still free. You don't have to use Facebook, right? You don't have to use Google search. I know I used it a lot today. I haven't gotten this computer set up the way I wanted to. But you can take it all back. There's no requirement for any of this shit. 20 years ago, we didn't have any of it. We didn't have a social media platform. We certainly didn't have Amazon Web Services. We don't need it. By the way, you don't need Parler either. Like, to be honest, you don't. There was forums, web pages, chats. There was all sorts of ways you could communicate before these assholes came along and started monkeying with everything. And there was search engines. Plenty of search engines. Google had the best one until they turned into goddamn fascists. There's plenty of search engines out there, guys. Maybe they don't work as well as Google. Who gives a shit? Use it for the things that matter. Don't you? And then if you can't find something, then go over to Google. Only use them when they're absolutely fucking necessary. Anyway, the point of this, the war's begun, folks. You're not going to fight it by protesting. You got to fight with your wallet. You got to fight with where you spend your time, how you leverage your time, right? Where you click, where you allow your families to click. Next podcast, I will go into VPNs. I will go into a bunch of other stuff that you can do to keep your stuff secure. For right now, pay attention to the apps that are currently actually trending on the Android store. Signal is good for end-to-end encryption. Don't know much about Telegram. MeWe, get on it early, get everybody you know over to it, and start sharing your pictures, start sharing your photos. Use it exactly like Facebook. It's absolutely free, and then you can buy into being able to do extra stuff on it instead of having them sell your data. It is literally Facebook without all the bullshit, without all the algorithms and everything controlling who and what you see, and without the little thingy saying you're a liar to your family. So get on MeWe, check it out, and DuckDuckGo, great app for your phone. Use it. They block banner ads and all sorts of stuff, but they also use the Google search engine, but don't let Google know who the hell's searching. Try it out, guys. Thank you for your time. Oh, don't forget the Google Compute Stick. Look at getting a phone that doesn't have an Android OS and just use it as a phone, and then get yourself a tablet or something that uses whatever you want to do and doesn't know who you are. Intel Compute Stick is awesome. Windows 10, you can create logins that are not attached to your Hotmail Outlook account. You can do that. You just have to not have an internet connection when you install it. It's a whole thing. If you want me to cover that, I will. But this guy's cool. It replaces your smart TV completely. Give it a shot. And then I think that's it. I think I made the case. Anybody got any questions for me before I sign off? Anybody? No? Nothing? I'm checking the chat screen, that's all. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great day. And keep the faith. And never forget that there's no such thing as socialism that doesn't turn into communism. Transitional social state between capitalism and communism. It's the same thing. Okay? Thanks, guys. God bless America. Peace out. Later.